If you coach basketball, you know this. What you say only matters if the players understand it. And that's what we're talking about today is just communication on the court and a tool that can help you be more effective at getting the message across to your players so that your strategy, either your overall strategy or what you're trying to do, isn't for nothing. Um, when I first started coaching, players will look at you like you're crazy if they don't understand what you're trying to convey. Um, in games, you get very little time to sit down and map out kind of what you want to do. Think about it. Timeouts are 30 seconds or a minute long. You only get so many a game, and if you're not a seasoned coach, or even if you're a seasoned coach, sometimes you don't even want to use those timeouts because they're precious. So you might not use them later to a game when it's already too late. Halftime, you're getting maybe 5 minutes. Pre-game, maybe just a few minutes before tip-off. So you don't have a whole lot of time to communicate with your players. And, in that short amount of time, you want to make sure that you're able to first come up with your strategy, how you want to tackle the problem of whatever team you're playing. You want to make sure that, your strategy is solid, and I'm sure it will be. But once you have that strategy in your head, you want to make sure that the players understand it. And I'll tell you from experience, I will explain game strategies to players or how to execute a certain play. And I'll get the head nod. Yeah, we understand, coach, just go out and do it. But a lot of times they don't understand, and they're certainly not going to say they don't understand in that huddle. So you want to make sure that you have a tool that probably a lot of you have, but if you don't, especially for you rec coaches, I want to just, and this is really a simple fix, but I want to make sure that you have this, or you at least know about it, and consider grabbing one. But it's really just a coaching board, right? And this isn't the only one on the market. This is actually not a real expensive one. I'll leave a link to this to Amazon for the one that I have. But there's actually, this one actually is my favorite. But there are other ones out there. I mean, you can get the magnetic boards to get your message across. But I like this one because it's simple, and I can put my thoughts with a marker on here, and and I can communicate with the players effectively. Most players are probably going to be they need to see it. They actually need to, they're visual learners. They need to physically see what you want them to do. And it's good for when they, when they actually see what everyone's doing on the board at the same exact time. So you're kind of appealing to those visual learners and also the verbal learners, the ones that can understand it by just telling you what you want them to do. I use this thing, pre-game. I use this thing during timeouts. I even use this during the game to throw messages up to my players so they read it. There's a lot of ways that this tool right here can help you communicate. And, I'm sure that if you're coaching travel or middle school or high school basketball, you're probably using one of these. But if you're coaching rec, I want to show you like how you can use this thing, and also to make it effective for you versus just grabbing one. Okay, so you can use this. Number one, you can use this in practice. To explain something. Like you could, when you're teaching your players how to do, when you're doing your breakdown drills on a play, and you're kind of doing everything step by step, and you're just breaking it down so they don't necessarily understand the whole picture. But then as you're doing your breakdown drills, maybe you're doing pick and rolls or whatever it might be, after you get out all of the concepts taught, you can pull your players in for 4 minutes and just say, hey, listen, I just showed you how to do this drill, these 4 drills, and the reason I was doing it is because I was putting together your motion offense, and here's how it looks. And that light bulb will come in. One of the laws of teaching is the law of repetition, or being able to to practice something over and over in a drill, and then to physically see it on a board it'll help them click, and they'll be more effective for it. And then when you're in the game, and you use this board already in practice, and you say, hey, we're going to execute, this motion offense, and already have it written down on the board before that timeout, and just say, remember, this is what it looks like. And then that light bulb will go off, because you will have players that will need that. And if you have one person that doesn't understand what's going on, they're going the wrong way, it will negatively impact your team. So, think about that. Another idea that I want to share with you, or a tip, is before the games, especially like in travel ball or even rec, you'll kind of know what the other team is strong at or weak at. And I will, before games, one of my pregame deals is I'll sit down with this board and I'll write out a war plan. This is how we're going to tackle this challenge that we're faced with today. And I do it differently every single time, and it's just based on what my plan is. So one consistent thing is I always, I would have, the initials of the players, on the board, and I would tell them basically where I want them for offense and defense. So I would maybe have, especially for your younger players, you want to, say, hey, we're going to start off in a 2-3 zone, and this is where I want each player to be. So they kind of know, okay, I guess I'm playing a guard, and most of them, already knew. Or if it was a 3-2 zone, I would tell them. If I was going to simply play man, I would just, put their initials on the board, and I'd be like, hey, we're going to go man, match up as soon as you get in. And then I would, maybe throw on like, we're going to run, obviously your offense is going to always be based off of what the other team is running. If I knew that I was going to get pressed by the other team, full court press, I would demonstrate, like, don't forget where you're going to stand up. If we worked on something a lot, or I thought we were going to need something, I would throw it up here in a bullet format, right? I would just bullet number 1, bullet number 2, bullet number 3. And, this way they know exactly who's going to be playing. They know what our strategy is. We're going to immediately press off of a free throw or made free throw, or if they've been kind of slacking on defense, I would be like, remember, we're playing aggressively, and I would write that down, aggressive. And it just easy things for them to remember, to kind of get them inspired. I might tell them, together everyone achieves more. Don't forget about teamwork. We all have teams that, especially on rec, where they don't want to pass the ball. And I would just remind them, like, let's get some passes. Let's move that ball around. Maybe your team is going up maybe they're not doing a good job of reversing the ball, and they're keeping the ball in one spot. You can remind them that ball reversals will help them. So these are all just ways to reinforce things that they've learned already. And this board can be so great at doing that, especially. So that's pregame. Timeouts. When I decide that I'm going to call a timeout because I want to change something, I'm grabbing my board and I'm writing what I'm going to change. I'm looking down at my roster to make sure I have the right players in, and I already have that game plan in my head, and I already have it on the board. So when they walk in, the players know, huddle up, and I'm pulling this thing out, okay? And so a 30-second timeout, and I have 10 seconds left for them to get water or whatever the case is. So this board is super important for that. And, without that, you're basically saying, hey, I want to do, X, Y, and Z, and you're, just kind of doing things in your hand, and, Joey, you go this way, and Johnny, you go that way. That doesn't work as effectively. It's not, so even if the team knows what they're supposed to do, and you're giving them, hey, we're going to run this play, their minds are, they're wow, throw it on here so they can see it, and they can be like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. Everyone's tracking. Everyone understands. Halftime, same thing. You have more time in halftime, so you can take some time, but I'm doing the same thing that I'm doing pregame, as I'm writing down, like, hey, this is where we're having a problem. This is where we're succeeding. Here's our game time strategy for the last half. Maybe maybe it's a close game. I don't know. It could, whatever it is that you want to reinforce to them, whatever the strategy is, you're going over it. You're going over it and they see it. You don't have to, sit there for, the whole 5 minutes trying to make sure each player understands. And in this way too is, especially like for the halftime and the pregame, is you can have back briefs because you have time, right? You got 5 players out there. Hey, Joey, I just explained what you were going to do, but what are you going to do? And then they can, they see it, and they can get that two-way communication going out. This is an important tool for communication. So, if you're out there coaching rec, especially, because I'm sure that all the travel coaches have a tool like this, but if you're coaching rec and you don't have this, and you're like, man, these kids, they don't understand, they're not getting it, try this. It's, I don't know how much this board is. It's probably like $30. There are cheaper ones out there. You can get them at Walmart and just, regular sports stores. Like I said, I'll leave a link to a few of them that I think will work for you, but really any of them can. My first board, I think I still have it. I didn't bring it in here for the video. I think it's like a little white board. It's a lot smaller than this. I don't think it has a back. But it was a lot cheaper. So if money is a thing, funding is a thing, then obviously don't, get the most expensive one. But this one I think was a good, average cost that I got off Amazon. And I like it because you have a full court. So if you want to demonstrate like a full court press or how to break a press, you can do that on here. And I'll tell you, there's been a bunch of times where I've been in a press situation and I'm like, I got to pull these kids out and teach them how to do this again, like get it back in their heads. And then this one, of course, is just that bigger, half court one that helps out. And it's all, you can also put like who's going to play here. But no, this is definitely a game changer for communication. It will totally improve the way you communicate with your team. If you are a rec coach and you're looking for more tips, subscribe to the channel, of course. But I also have a PDF handout that I sell. I'll put a link to it in the description box below, but it just basically gives you some defenses, some offenses, some other things that you should be thinking about if you're a rec coach on how to do better at what you're doing, and be a little more prepared so that you can take a lot of the guesswork out of what you're doing and focus more on the kids and getting them ready for basketball games and developing them. So hope you enjoy the video.